morning, good afternoon. Thanks for coming to our interview session, mock interview session. And for today, we'll be having Siwa as our interviewee, and I'll be moderating the sessions. And always, if you guys have any questions, always feel free to shout it out or to type it on the chat. I'll be doing my best to monitor the chat. But if I don't respond to your questions, feel free to ping me or shout out to get your questions addressed. And yeah, you're going to be sharing your screen, Siwa?
Yes. Okay. So, yeah. So thanks for introducing me. So I'm taking this session today. So this topic is, so first thing first, hi, welcome everyone to this session. Hope you are doing good, especially in this COVID, kind of event. I hope everyone is taking care of themselves and their family, and they are doing well. So let's begin now.
Yeah.
So the topic of today is proximity server. So there could be multiple variants of this, like Yelp, or finding nearby friends, or even driver and rider and driver mapping for Uber. So there are multiple different variants of it, where the problem space is almost equivalent, but there could be differences in constraints here. So yeah, rider and driver matching. So let me go in detail what exactly we are trying to capture here, and what is the scope of this problem statement, and how do we come up with a successful design for this. So this is a good attempt, and if there are any gaps, we will try to cover and make it even better. So this is what I'm doing in kind of a presentation mode, where I already have the materials ready, and people can just pitch in and add value to it, or help me improve this, and finally we will have something to take away for all. So yeah, so I'm here. So the very first thing is what is the scope of this? What are the clarifying questions? So yeah, so like, are there any other parameters that we want to search? So the problem space is like this. I just want to restrict it to a fixed estate, or fixed category, like maybe restaurant, or hotel, or something like that, that does not move as such. So that category I want to cover here. So,
okay, so just to clarify, we're not gonna do like an Uber-like system. It's gonna be more like a Yelp or like Zomato kind of applications.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, like Yelp or Zomato. Yeah, that way. So yeah, so I'm capturing here. So a typical pattern will be, give me the top 10 results or top K results here. So I, as an interviewer, I have a couple of clarifying questions. So are there any other parameters that we need to look for other than the distance criteria? So some of the things we could think of as filtering based on some ratings, like if it is something like Google Map, then we know that I just want high rating items only. Suppose I want to search for a restaurant of 4+ rating or something like that. Similarly, I want to only look for restaurants that is open at the moment, whether it is serviceable, whether it is open at the moment, because what's the use of getting a result that is not even relevant. Similarly, search based on certain history highlighted item. For example, I might have visited a dentist, and very nearby there is a restaurant as well. So Google can help me out with that. Similarly, there could be personalized recommendation, either personalized or time and space based, basically anonymized kind of. So these are certain things that I'm thinking of. But for the benefit of discussion, the focus is on proximity, distance as criteria, and park the rest of the attributes. So though we will kind of think about it or try to touch up, but that will not be the main scope of this problem discussion. So does this sound good?
Yeah. Quick questions. Are we also gonna factor, like new places getting added every month, or like basically the number of places gonna stay fixed? Like, are we also like accounting for like new places, or maybe even like remove places? Is that gonna be also covered?
Surely.
Yeah.
Sure. So I think we can take that up, adding places. Okay. Yeah, I'll add it to the scope. So yeah, so this is how I'm converting it into kind of a concrete requirement. So user should be able to search a given service within X kilometer or mile range. Then the system should return top K result relevant to the search query. Admin should be able to feed or upload shops here, whatever shops they have, restaurant, any fixed assets here, location data to the system, and this should get reflected as soon as possible. Yeah.
So sorry, I may miss this. For the point number 2, the top K results relevant to the search query. Yeah. What do you mean by relevant?
Yeah, so here the scope is only distance here.
Okay, so even the closest relevant means by distance. Okay.
Yeah. So I'll just mention closest here. So it could very well happen that in real interview someone can say, I also want to add personalization, I want to add maybe serviceability or some filtering criteria. They just want to puzzle us up. So that's why I'm making it relevant to the search query, and closest is the thing that is applicable for our hard constraint kind of. So couple of things I can think of in terms of constraint is I don't have to build recommendation system, which is kind of definitely much wider scope. I simply care about distance-based sorting, and another thing is the assets don't move very often. They are like almost like fixed to lat long. So so that makes sense, right? And so the next clarifying question would be, what devices do we support here? So so it could be web, mobile, and what is the scale that we are thinking? So maybe 1 billion daily active user, 10 queries a day. And like for simplicity, we are saying that there are up to 100K restaurants. This is again very specific we are picking here. It could be any places here. Any places will also do. It could be extended to any places, and it is open 24/7. This is again for simplicity, so that it is kind of reachable, so to say. So till this point, does it sound good? Any clarification needed? This sounds good.
I'm good on my end. Anyone else has any questions? I guess we can move on. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's go on from here. So the thing is, now we already covered the functional requirement and the clarification. So the next part is the non-functional requirement, where we would like to capture the behavior of the system that it needs to emit, other than the business behavior. So the very first thing is we want the system to be highly available. So there are so many users, and a lot of people will rely on these search query. So we don't want business to go down very often, otherwise it will impact this thing. So the target is 99.9 here, and we typically want low latency. Like I'm just being aggressive, maybe 10 millisecond can we get it, or maybe or 100 millisecond for end-to-end kind of thing. I'm thinking.
So this latency is like when the user is searching for places. Yes, they expect the latency to be under like 100 millisecond.
Yes, yes. Let me make it 100 only because this is user interaction. This is not a service API. So yes. So this is the thing. So if so whenever I hit this API gateway, from the API gateway all the way to the system, it should be under 100 millisecond. If the person is too far away, or if there is network issues, I think then system cannot handle though. Like if the person is still on 2.5G or 2.75G Edge or GPRS. I mean, there are people around the world. So then we will not be able to serve.
Okay, so but under normal conditions, any user will get the results under 100 millisecond.
Yes, yes. Yeah, so that is the expectation here. And another thing we are seeing is this is a system where the responses are not very critical once in a while, like once in a million. If we have to kind of choose between the availability or consistency, we can say that, okay, I will choose availability as a criteria, and we can live with it. It will not have, that big of an issue here, because this is something not a financial transaction, and we are just suggesting, right? It's not a hardcore thing that, hey, I missed that specific restaurant, how can you do that? So that kind of model is not there. Yeah.
When you say you are sacrificing consistency, yeah, what exactly do you mean by consistency?
Yeah, so this is basically the cap theorem that I want to play around here. As part of the cap, I can choose only two. So what would you like to choose here? Like, is it availability? So the thing is, we have to build partition tolerant system. Like in modern world, I cannot have just a single server like it used to happen in the relational world.
Sorry, yeah, what I meant is, like say, like when you have, I guess when you relax on the consistency, does it mean like one user is, or like two users can see two different results? Is that what you mean by sacrificing consistency? Like two people querying the same,
yeah. So let's say there are replicas here, and those replicas, while it is replicating, there is some gap there. So what could happen is one of the users hits one replica, other uses other replica, and they are in eventual consistency kind of setup. So there two users could see different things, and I don't see much issue there. Because they will not compare with each other and then fight with me. So because we are not doing crypto trading or any really critical things here, that the rates that are provided to two people, if it differ, then it becomes a kind of a burning issue. So this is just a leeway. That I can choose availability over consistency, but it could very well happen that, okay, I can get a strong consistency. Like this is just a kind of, I'm having this kind of flexibility.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes
sense. So this is just a flexibility. Okay. So now the very next important thing is what is the read-write ratio or capability we can see. So it is very obvious that whenever we upload any restaurant data or something, it could stay all the way till 1 year. Like the contracts are typically 1 year or more. So anyway, they are not going to move out that often, and we already told that this is not very critical. So this could provide a lot of cacheability properties. I can probably cache for 1 day or even 1 year or infinitely if I have some write through data model or something like that. Anyways, so and that we definitely want very high durability. In the sense that we don't want to lose any of the uploads, because the businesses are relying on us, and we need kind of implicit requirements are, maybe we need elasticity and support for filtering, sorting, and pagination.
Actually, can you elaborate more on the elasticity? What do you mean by elasticity?
Yeah, so elasticity, what I mean is that each of these components, so it is actually scalability versus elasticity. So scalability, what it means is definitely that we should be able to, as long as we add more servers, we should be able to, quickly, no, scalability is basically, if I add more server, I should be able to take more traffic. But what happens there is that it could very well happen that, if I add more servers, but it is taking a lot of time to do that, cold boot. Like it is, really heavy machines and things like that. Like suppose it is EC2, it will take 5 minutes. Can I, do it faster? So that goal of, reactive like if I add one node, how soon is it able to actually react and scale? That is actually elasticity. So what is my actual demand and how much am I able to fulfill? So that is what I would want here. So I would want to see, like, all these components, can I build in such a way that it can react faster to the scaling requirements? So that is actually the elasticity that I mean here.
So yeah, just so I understand it correctly. So scalability means, like you can always scale the, I guess the server like horizontally. You can always throw in more servers, and then it will be able to handle more traffic, more requests. And then, but the elasticity part, are they the same, scalability and elasticity, or they are the opposite? Because you're saying like scalability versus elasticity. I think, just for my own educations, like elasticity, is it the opposite of scalability?
No. It's not exactly opposite. So there is a small gap there. So the gap is scalability only means that I add more nodes and I get more throughput capability, but it does not talk about how soon can I do it. So they don't compete with each other. It's like this is basically this is theory and practice. I can say very bluntly, this is just theory, and this is like how practically is it able to catch up. So for example, an extreme example would be like, suppose I am really old enterprise and I have any scalability in place, but it requires replacing the physical machine, buy a new machine and put it there, or buy a new physical horizontal rack and then put it there. So it will take a week, a month, or in the current COVID and circuits, so basically electronic shortage time, it might take a year, right? So we are not elastic. We are like really kind of plastic there. Now,
okay. So we want high elasticity and I guess high scalability as well. Okay, got it.
Yes. So I can say high, and let me rephrase that way only. So this will be like can I do it on? I mean, I'm just making up. Can I use K8? Can I use Lambda and things like that? So it will be very fast. I'll see if I'm able to elaborate, but this is definitely something that we need in real systems or like this. So I'm just sparking maybe user lifecycle, some of the security, and image-based searches is out of the scope. Someone asked me, can I do image-based searches? So that will require actually MLAI and certain other things. So I'm not covering as part of this. So does that sound good? Okay, cool. Yeah, cool. Let me move on to I'll just go step by step. So here, the very first thing I would like to do is scale estimation, so that I can pick up the right set of trade-off and components, and I can provide the right justification there. So the very first thing is, we talked about the scale is 1 billion daily active user, 10 queries, so 10 billion queries per day, and throughput. So what will be the effective throughput here? So the read QPS would be like 10 billion divided by 100K. So typically in a day there are 100K seconds. So this is coming to roughly 100K requests per second. So peak, we can say that we may have 1 million requests per second, something like that. We may have this kind of basically 10x. I'm just calculating. So right here is very small. That is what I'm seeing. Like we have just 100K restaurants here. I know if you build more, we could scope it up to all places, so it will rise a bit larger. But as of now, I'm not covering that here. So for the 100K restaurants, if there are like 365 days, then maybe we will get 1,000 registrations per day. So this is like a really small 0.01 TPS. So we can directly do bulk upload here as well in 1 second, and we can do delta uploads, none of these will affect any advanced computers that we have, like which is like 10 to power 7 units of processing per second. So this will be sub seconds only. So we don't have to worry much about this here. That is how I see. And similarly, so does it make sense?
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, can you explain the QPS calculation one more time, please?
Surely. So see, here we have 10 billion queries that are coming per day. So 10 billion is exactly these many millions. So I'm just canceling out the numbers, and what I'm getting is if I remove these zeros and these zeros, I will have 100 here, and million divided by 1000 is again 1000. So this is coming to 1000K requests per second, right?
So
just
what is the 100K in the denominator?
Yeah, it is basically seconds per day.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So anyway, these are estimation. I don't want to go into 8670 something. That does not add.
I think that makes sense. Yeah.
Add any value here, and because these things are really approximate, like 10x we want. So I think this will help. So sounds good, right?
Sounds good. Yeah. Anyone else has any other questions? Cool.
Good. So I'll just jump through these, and then I'll see if I go via high-level design and then API and something like that. So here the storage requirement we already kind of see here that like 100K restaurants we are committing to, and each restaurant will have 1K text blob, text, and like text will be 1K, and blob will be blob is basically any sort of images we can have is up to an MB. So these are again assumptions. You can always counter that. Okay, can I support uploading videos? Then I can have counter question like how much, like 1 MB, 10 MB. Definitely we don't want to create a YouTube kind of system here. So on a lighter note, so this is what is the calculation. So here for the text, what I see is that total it will take just 100 MB on the disk, and for the blob it will be 100 GB, right? That makes sense, right?
Yes. So 100 GB coming from 100,000 times 1 megabyte.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. So we can use any kind of block storage or object store, like maybe AWS S3 or anything like that. I don't think there is too much debate here. It will be cloud specific, any solution we can choose. We don't have any issue here. Yeah, and it can be served directly from that. So we will directly say that, okay, the blob will go here and it will sit here. And the text is something that we will have to design. So one thing we are seeing here is, the text size or the actual business size is very small, like 100 MB of raw data. So we can probably directly store it in memory with really large TTL, and for durability we will store in disk. So this is kind of couple of things that are coming, and on update of the contents of a new entry, we can follow some write through, write cache, some model basically we can follow. Yeah, so we will try to visit that. So next is so does this sound good till now?
Are you gonna discuss about like what database technology you're gonna use later on? Like, is that coming? Like
yes. Okay. Finally,
okay.
It will come. So okay. We will move from the abstraction layer to more concrete layer where things will be kind of more debatable. Okay. Yeah.
Sounds good.
So here the very first thing will be like we will kind of try to cover the upload API. So there will be maybe some restaurant service with I can say maybe upload. I don't know if this is the best naming, but here we will have the restaurant name. There is lat long, like what is the category this is falling in, and and any other criteria that we want to be able to search in the future, like suppose the restaurants, they also categorize themselves as star rating or something like that. So and we could also have some sort of loosely defined metadata things, like whatever, like a pizza special or biryani special.
Yeah.
No, so the point here is we can make it more and more extendable, and we can give some flexibility to the clients, and we can ask them to extend without too much fuss. So for example, if star rating is not very compulsory attribute, I can just put it in this meta, like taste or specialty, something like that. So we can have those kind of model fit in here, but this will be like optional kind of thing. And
it's a minor thing, but I think maybe it is the user that maybe give the rating, not the restaurant. But it's a minor detail.
Yeah. So kind of, yeah. So anyways, so the purpose of this is that how do we make sure that I think rating will not come here. This is actually this is a kind of overloaded term. Like some hotels can say that, okay, I'm 5-star, but
okay. Sorry. I thought this is the review, the rating review. Sorry.
Hotel star rating. So I know this is kind of confusing because and that same 5-star hotel would have got just 3.5 stars. So we go.
Yeah. Okay. So thanks for clarifying. Yeah.
Just a quick question on that. So you're saying that the very first API is actually used by the restaurant owners,
yes,
who will be uploading the information about the restaurant. It is not the user who's going to rate the restaurant at this point.
Correct. So this is just for the completeness aspect. So here the admin or restaurant owner can kind of should be able to upload this thing. So this is kind of, first of all, I'm showing the write flow, which is kind of and then I'll show the read flow, which is kind of more critical here. So makes sense, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It could be admin as well, based on if we are seeing some fraud or some real scenario, we will kind of So the purpose here is we want to capture as much as information for the restaurant, and with compulsory fields and some of the optional fields that could be leveraged at later point of time, like if we want to build some more advanced model. So basically the extendability is the thing that we are looking for.
Yeah, one question, maybe we have to backtrack a bit in terms of the storage requirement, right?
Yeah.
So you said like we would be using cache because we are storing all the data into disk, right? So did you talk about the size of the cache which we will require? Because it seems like we will require a huge cache, right?
Yeah, sure. So the thing is, I have actually made safe assumptions here that I will have just 100K restaurants, and this looks like a very small size, like 100 MB it is coming up, and I can very easily cache it in any we can store it directly in memory or distributed data store. So this is, I'm just evaluating the cacheability possibility. So in disk definitely it will get stored. But this kind of admits that, okay, if we go by caching, 100 MB is a very small number, we can definitely cache it. So even if, we go 10x or 100x, I think, 1 GB, 10 GB is very small for any, common, backend servers. So we still have 100x leeway here, right?
Okay, so what data we are caching here?
Yeah. So what we want to cache. So first of all, we are just evaluating the cacheability here. So we are not touching up on what exactly we are caching as of yet. So yeah.
Sorry, this is just a text to answer the question. This is just if you look at the requirement, 100K restaurants can have a text, and then you have the blob requirement or the image requirement. What the caching of this is strictly about the text part that he's referring to.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So here comes the thing, right? I mean, if we are storing all the images into disk or any blob storage, will we be able to meet the 100 millisecond requirement to pull up all the details, or 100 millisecond is only for searching all the nearby restaurant, and if you want to know the details of the restaurant, then there is a separate requirement?
Yeah, so the purpose of this is return me the top K results. So top K results will only have the information about the restaurant. It need not show all the images, or the images could be asyncly loaded as well. So let me kind of make this assumption that the SLAs will be only for text search query. Images could be individually or asynchronously loaded. So what I can do is I can be very lean, and I will just load the text and just show it in row item, like 2 row item, and there will be no image of the restaurant, because I don't want to say show 10 images of the restaurant. Now, if I click on that specific restaurant, like whatever, some pizza shop, then it can load the image, like maybe via Ajax or whatever works.
Yeah, just to clarify, this text search query is that the main workflow, like give me like the top 10 restaurants in my area,
yes.
right? That's the SLA for, okay.
Yes. So basically search restaurant in 5-kilometer area or something like this. This is the the very first criteria, like give me top 10 results of the same. So yeah, so because I think that would be unnecessary, so to say. We can design a lot of things, but that is not the primary thing here. That's why we are kind of putting it in constraints. Makes sense, right? Not in scope, or I can say constraints, kind of, if that is.
Yeah. So just one follow-up question. So do we really need cache? Can't we just store the data into a MySQL DB or something like that, and just pull from there based upon the reason ID or something like that?
Surely. Let me go to that level. So let's evaluate those things. I think there are certain overlaps, but let's get in there. So. Okay. So this is what we are capturing the restaurant model or entity here. The purpose is not just pushing the API, but build future capable future ready a data model for restaurants. And we can also think how can we as a bigger scope, how can we make it extendable as well. So those kind of things. But anyways, now let me go into the read flow, where most of the business logic or things like that will come here. So yeah, so here what we can do is maybe there will be something like restaurant /search ? And then we can put a lat long, and it will be like maybe lat long or whatever. But the query, it will go to the backend, and the backend will actually respond to us. So like I said, that is not a primary thing, but we can probably put some sort of rating filtering, or is the restaurant open, or maybe some sort of category information here. Yeah, something like that. Okay, so now so now let me kind of go into this thing, a bit of deep dive. First of all, high level design I will go into, and then deep dive on the thing that you had asked for, like what would be the data store, and where what are some of the kind of trade-offs that we will make. So here, the write flow, even the bulk upload, it will go to the API gateway, it will come to the server, it will come to proximity service, and it will be written to some sort of data store here, and we can put it in. We can also update the cache, and that upload, if there are any images, we will upload the images in the blob. So images will go here. So what we can do is probably we can just upload the images first, and once this is successful, then we will update this acid one. Once this is successful, then we will probably update the cache. So there could be, we can have, a write through or write aside kind of caching mechanism. We will evaluate that. So so this is basically the write part, and the read part. What will happen is the read will come to the API it will come to the API gateway here. It will come to the proximity service, and it will check if there is already someone's drawing something here. Yeah. So we will check if there is already the data in the cache. Then we will read it from there. Otherwise, we'll have to hit the DB. So now this is, first of all, high level, very high level proposal here. So any question on this high level proposal? We will see what are the nuances or benefit that we have and how we can leverage that. So any questions on this? This is just the building block here.
What is the cache TTL?
Time to live. How long? To live. Yeah, basically, how long do we want to cache that result? So, for example, if it is very fast changing data, so cache is a trade-off, right? So the data store will have the source of truth, and cache could have, if we don't design very well, cache could have stale data, right? So there, how much staleness is acceptable? So in this model, probably any restaurants they are not moving frequently, right? So I can even keep 1 day TTL or even longer.
Yeah, just to clarify. So in this case, this is the cache will hold the restaurant location, right? Sort of.
Yeah.
And then, like you mentioned, like restaurants, they don't move very often. But okay, but you'll still be having the TTL for like a day.
We will see what actually fits in here.
Okay.
So I'm just suggesting that we can have, for example, we can have a TTL for a day and it will still work because the restaurant won't move for typically for 6 months or 1 year. So
there's just a comment from Krishna. He was saying during the interview, I recommend to hold on to cache requirement until scalability is discussed, so that interviewer gets the context.
Yes. So now let's move to the core concept here.
Shiva, sorry to interrupt. I have a question. So to relate the images with the restaurant information, we must need some restaurant ID to be stored in the blob storage as well, right? So first we need to store the text information to ACID, and then collect that restaurant ID and save the images associated to that restaurant ID in the blob storage. Is it we are doing, or the reverse way?
I'm thinking reverse way, that upload it to the blob storage, get the URL, and in the restaurant data model, restaurant data model, we can have store the blob here. So I'll maybe try to propose this here. I'll kind of keep all these attributes and a couple of other things here. So so here I can have something like this, and it will also have the blob. So after the name, we can have image URL.
Okay, so got it. Yeah.
This works, right? And after this, we can also have some other things like user feedback or something like that. So this will be this can have reviews, ratings, and complaints or whatever, rectification, feedback. So we can have many of those things here as part of the data model here. So so this is what I'm thinking. So of course, we will not
I'm sorry. Before we move forward, I just wanted to talk. I mean, maybe later point of time we can talk about
sure.
Do we really need cache, or we can use some
why not
like quad tree and do a range based search on the database and try to retrieve the data faster.
Sure. So this is very high level components that I'm thinking as part of any standard systems. We will go into nitty-gritty details, and definitely I would like to answer that. If I miss it, just recall me again. So
just to clarify, the cache that you mentioned here, this is the cache for the restaurant metadata, right? This is not the cache for like a query result, or maybe you will have it in the cache, but
Yeah. We can have a lot of things there. I'll just check what is the best I can do. Let me give it a try. So so the core deep dive kind of functional thing here is like, suppose I want to search restaurants up to 5 kilometer or 10 kilometer, whatever range is there, and so we'll pass this as a parameter from here. It will come from the top, like, okay, these are the things, and probably I'll have a fixed or parameterize this query, and I will pass the lat long of the person here. So probably if it is a mobile, it can someone just remove this yellow thing? Someone has drawn it and it is not deleted. It is coming here permanently. Lines.
Is this coming from the Zoom or coming from your tools?
It is beyond my tool. This is Zoom actually. You see, it is getting into my this window.
I'm trying to erase it, but I'm unable to. If someone drew that, I'm not able to remove it.
Okay. Whoever can do it, please do it. So now the thing is that here what we want to do is the actual core concept is or the core part is the search here. So in the search, the person will have a location like a lat long. Probably we can get it from mobile, and there will be a list of a restaurant location lat long that we want to basically query on. So we want to query on that, and we want to result the basically ready to search. So goal is searching top K and returning the top K results. So now what happens here? So there are actually multiple ways to achieve this. What we could do is we could do some sort of brute force search or data store based search. I do some sort of so I'll have some specialized DB for this intent, and I can do this. So let me just maybe bring this section up. This is what I should discuss first. Just 1 second. Yeah, so I'll have a clarifying question like can we use a pre-existing data store for the solution, a data store that is built for geospatial search? If that is the case, then I don't need to go into these nuances. But if we want to build a custom solution, then only we need to go into further nuances. So so anyway, so actually in that regard, MySQL, Aerospike, and some of the data store, they actually give some capabilities of geospatial search. So so there what happens is that maybe it will be able to solve this problem to a certain extent, but we don't know what exactly is the implementation. So that's why we are trying to build a...
Can you go? I mean, just like a very high level overview.
Sure.
I didn't know, but MySQL actually capable to do like a geospatial search. Just on the high level, do you know maybe what type of data type that is used in MySQL? Just again, this is for my own education. How. On a very high level, how does MySQL do the geospatial search? I thought MySQL initially just was a generic, a relational database.
So I think I'm seeing Elasticsearch, probably Solar, Redis. All these guys are supporting some sort of geospatial search. I'm pretty sure they will have their own query model.
MySQL does not have a MySQL does not have 2D indexing. Postgres
has. Okay. So there are, these are basically some of the data source that has these kind of geospatial search with MySQL. I mean, there could be some ways distance parameter. Anyway.
I think maybe I guess in this session we're gonna go with the custom solution anyway, right? Because I guess that's gonna make it more interesting.
Yeah. So we don't know the limitations of these. They can say that, okay, because we don't know the implementation, that's why we don't know the limitations of these. So we will just go into our own custom solution and we will see what exactly we are delivering here, and if there are any gaps and all, we will see. So in the custom solution, the first thing would be can we do some sort of brute force scanning here? So this will be very inefficient, and we'll have to go through all the items. Definitely it will be order n, and we will have to also sort those items in some or the other way. So it could very well become and log n in worst case. So this is what kind of I'm seeing here. So the next thing is that so the next thing is can we use some specialized data structure that is purpose built for these kind of things, or can we kind of retrofit or organically fit this kind of requirement? So one thing I can think of is that just one second.
Yeah, no problem.
Murphy law. Yeah, so I'm on a presentation. I'm getting random calls. Otherwise, I wait for hours. I don't get any calls. Anyways, so so the next thing is, can we use any of the existing data structure or advanced things that people have already implemented, or some scientists have put effort there? So one of the things I could think of is, can we use quad tree for this purpose? So this looks like a very good fitment here, that I will have the world will be a single map, a square kind of representation, where I can keep breaking these squares based on certain needs. So for example, the simplistic model would be, we will have a balanced kind of quad tree. We will have 4 children. This is a top view, and those 4 children, we can keep on breaking them based on certain criteria. So the simple thing is, we can just say that, okay, based on certain max distance, like up to 1 kilometer or 1 mile, we can break, and then we can stop there. So what other things can we do as part of this? So we will maybe discuss a bit down here. So the data model I'm thinking here is that especially the storage model, the preferred storage model for search optimization is, we will have the quad tree node here. So quad tree node, what it will do is that it will have this kind of structure. It will have ID, lat long, a parent ID, and it will have 4 children here, and the list of restaurants, a list of restaurants in this cell. So this is basically a cell representation, or a cell or node.
So yeah, the quad tree node, that can be a leaf node, or that can also be like internal node, right? It can be like a parent node, or it can also be like a leaf node. Is that again, I have like a very limited knowledge of quad tree, but
sure. I got your question. So yeah, so the way I'll definitely clarify here. So only the leaf nodes will have list of restaurants here, because we don't this list of restaurants will actually quickly explode if we try to capture at parent level what are the list of restaurants. It will explode, but we will have this entry size, a number at leaf and non-leaf both. So this will be useful in some calculation.
Sorry, so this is what number? This is again the entry size. This is the number of like non-leaf nodes.
Yeah, no. Sorry for being vague here. So this will be all restaurant count, basically restaurant count, basically going downward. So count in all children below. So this is just for some sort of aggregation kind of view.
Okay. At that level, like this will have this many restaurants.
This many restaurants. So basically, all restaurant count in all children below. So I can rephrase it, but
it's
kind of clear.
But the one quick question here on the quadri node while you are populating it, right? So this is going to be like, as you said in the non-functional requirement, this is 1 to 1000, like write versus read ratio. So
correct.
So the data preparation or population is going to be offline, or maybe once in a while this could happen. So having all the restaurants at every node, possibly, let's say if I zoom in or zoom out, let's assume that on a Bangalore particular lane, you can see all the restaurants. Sometimes somebody zooms out, you can still see the restaurants all over the Bangalore itself, right?
Correct.
Does it make sense to have the restaurants at every node, just in case?
I think having at every node will actually kill the system, because at the top parent node, it will have unnecessarily have 100,000 the restaurant. So it will be like too much redundancy, and it could quickly it could break the system. So the node size will explode. Here the node size is kind of bounded. So the node size I want is maybe up to 1 kilobyte only. If it is at every node, what will happen is it will keep aggregating bottom up, and at the parent level we will have all the restaurants, right? So it will.
That makes sense. And even if there is a requirement to show every all the restaurants in the entire Bangalore city, you can still pick up all the children and can still show that, can satisfy that requirement. Okay.
Correct.
Even though if you only store just the just maybe the restaurant ID, do you think that's still gonna overwhelm the quadri? Or
So we will store IDs only. Because actual model is pretty complex. Like it will have so many attributes, so we can store the full object. So it will be IDs only.
Okay. Also, one question is like, so the quadri node, it has the latitude and longitude. Is this like the center? Like I guess this because I imagine the node is kind of like a square. It represents like a square.
Got your point. I think it requires little dive deep here. I got your point. Like, is it like the centroid lat long we are talking about, or are you talking about the min lat max lat? I understand your point. I think in an ideal scenario, we will have to think about min and max as well, because if we want to query, or if you want to break it, so how granular are we breaking? So actually it has to be once we dive deep, it goes on and on. So this is like min lat, min long, we can have something like this, and max lat and max long. So the thing here that I could think of, maybe stop me if that sounds wrong, is I want to be 100% sure that these restaurants, the lat long that are stored here actually lies in this min and max range. So this is basically
so this represents a square, like I guess 4 points, four corners.
Yes. So to say, whatever is a simplistic square representation, which is kind of easy to capture and split it. For example, when I talk about this, how does it differentiate from this guy? So this min max, probably it could help here.
Okay, got it.
Similarly,
Shiva, is this quadri is a kind of data structure that we store the data in our application after we retrieve the data from DB or blob?
Yes. So first of all, just for everyone's background, quadri is not very complicated. I think everyone knows about binary tree, right? I'll just just for representation, I will show you. So everyone knows about binary tree. Each parent has 2 child. So what is quadri is, instead of binary, instead of trinary, it is just a quad tree. This is nothing more than that. This is very simple. This is just just 1 parent, 4 child, and this is an application, right? This is an abstraction. This is a mathematics, right? So this is mathematics. This is an abstraction of the real world. So these are maybe, this looks like very complicated because it is able to solve a lot of things. So similar to when we are using binary tree, that is able to solve a lot of things, but inherently it is just one parent, two child, which we are told every time, right? It's so simple. So here it is one parent, four child. That's all. There is nothing more, nothing less. All the rest of the things are just tree concepts only. This is just tree concept, nothing much.
Okay.
Yeah, makes sense, right? So for example, for whatever reason, we could also create hexagonal, so hexa tree we could create. Probably that will be even better fit. I don't know. So it depends on the plane or on the sphere. Probably duodectado will fit better. Okay, it will be just mathematically more complex, but inherently it is very simple. Like there will be one node and there will be multiple children, and of course we need to have some mechanism to find out which one is which. Like this is like kind of left top, and kind of we need to have mechanism if I want to split this, right? For example, I want to go in from here to here. I should have a mechanism to jump to that. So these will be very clearly identified, not that I just go and brute force search this thing. Makes sense, right?
So the number of children is always going to be 4, right? Because you are splitting a square into four smaller squares.
Yeah, so up to, so I'll say up to 4 children. I think that is how I should say, because it could very well happen that I don't want to break this thing. Like I have this parent one, and a given section could have I could highlight, or I think I'll keep it simple only. Let's not complicate too much. Let's have it 4 or 0 children. I think that is just fine, right? Yeah, 4 or 0 is children. That is just fine. I think no need to complicate too much. Yeah. So and we can divide there as well. But anyway, that is serves the purpose.
Someone was having questions.
Yeah. Please.
Just a quick question. The size of the children will totally depend upon the number of restaurants present in that area, right? So
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So that so the size it could change.
Yes. Children. So. Yes. So size could change. For example, I'll just jump to a thing which is of a thing of interest, that whatever request we are getting, typically we want a response of top 10 queries there. So what we can do is in the Quadtree node that we have here. Quadtree node, what we will do is we will store up to 100 restaurants that fall in the cell, and we will just divide it if it grows, and unite it if it shrinks, grows more than 100, and united it if it is less than 50. So that kind of dynamic processing we can do, and that way we will not have too many restaurants in that, or too less restaurant, because that will be inefficient, and necessarily the depth of the tree will increase. So that way, with this sort of balancing, we can get like the right flexibility. For example, if I land to a cell, I'm pretty sure I will always serve the query of 100 top 10 restaurants, and because it is the most nearest one, I can and I have up to 50 entries. So returning just 10 entries via pagination would be very simple. I don't need to even go into multiple nodes per se via this simple trick, right?
Yeah.
So
you just want to point out that we only have about like half an hour left. So if there's any maybe like a particular focus area that you want to cover, maybe we can jump right into that, because we don't have, I didn't realize we only have like half an hour left.
Surely. So let me kind of go and complete. There is not much left here. Maybe this bar is kind of going in between only. So this is
Shiva, one question.
Yeah.
Shiva, one question. I mean, how do you split the Quadtree node?
Yeah. So how do I split the Quadtree node? It's very kind of simple. So we chose, any node can have, 0 or 4 children. So what will happen is, let's say that a given node, a given node will have like more than 100, entries there. So what I will do is I will split it into 4 parts. and then I will go there and assign it to the specific children. For example, I'm on this level. Okay, so I suppose I create 4 children here. And then, okay, I think this is an interesting thing. There are some alternatives I'm thinking. So one option is I always create 4 children and then assign all the responsibilities to the 4 children based on their lat long, min max lat long range. Alternate, yeah. So I think this will work, right? Anything confusion here? I think this will work. This first option itself. Whenever the size.
Yeah, you say like when the size of a node grows more than like 100, you're gonna split it into 4 child nodes, right? And then
correct.
Like,
that's how I'm
like okay.
And that could be at a different level. Like I go here, I create 4 children at top level, and from here I create 4 children. So at this level, I can have 4 children, and then you see like 4 children, and here I think it will be 4 children. This model, I think it works. No need of any further complications.
For shrinking, I guess since you also have the aggregated data at the parent level, like I think you mentioned it, you have like the total number of restaurant counts
correct.
in all the children. Then so if the total numbers is less than 100, then you're gonna combine the children into one node, right?
Yes. So I'll keep a limit. Like it should not be like for every addition and division I'm splitting. So the lower bound I will keep it if it shrinks below 50 or even maybe smaller number, maybe and then only I will merge. And if it goes beyond 100, then I will split. So that if I add a node, it should not split and merge very often. So I think this looks like a good option. This kind of thing happens in ArrayList implementation in Java, that if it doubles up, then it will allocate a new memory, and it becomes half or less than half, probably it can release the memory. So I think this heuristic will work. Definitely it would be backed by some calculations that I'm unable to visit in this scope. So makes sense, right?
Yeah, Shiva, just one final question. When we are shrinking and when we are redesigning the tree, obviously at that time we will be still getting a lot of read queries, right? Because it's a read intensive application. So how we will handle that downtime, or how we will handle the shrinking and redesigning of the tree between all the traffic which we are getting?
Okay, I think this is very interesting condition. So I'll capture this as part of open question, maybe the last one, because this looks like a little complicated. So how do we handle the concurrent read and writes? So so I think let me go into little detail. I'll come to this point. Then it could be more kind of obvious. So let me kind of cover up the last bit of it, and then I'll come to this question. So search thing is, I was actually thinking that can we have order one kind of search? I don't know if that is possible. I was looking, but I did not get anything. If we could get order one search here, that will be really great if I have some sort of data model or some sort of hashing. But order login, I'm pretty sure that is pretty much possible. For example, I have a lat long. I'll go to the top node here, and whatever is the lat long range, min max, I'm definitely falling at this min max. It will then search for the next children. Suppose next children falls in this square. So in this min max, it will go, and it goes to the next children and next children. And finally, it lands up here, like, something like that, the target node. And once it lands here, then we know, okay, the goal is met. So this is because this is kind of the depth of the tree. So we can kind of like symmetrically say that it will be order of log n. So it will take maybe 4 or 5 steps to land to the specific cell of that thing. I'm just being optimistic. There could be a way to do faster, but this will lead to some more frequent DB hits. That is the only concern here. Now,
I was thinking maybe we have like a hash map, like from locations to the quad 3 node ID, like so that we can get like O of 1 operations to search for like the node of that restaurant that it belongs to.
Yeah. So
but in that case, if we have hash map and when we are redesigning the quad tree, we have to change the entire map, right?
Yeah, I guess it's gonna be expensive to because we have to like rebuild the map. Yeah, I guess this is more of like a balancing between speed versus and maybe space, maybe. Yeah, but yeah, I agree. I think because we're gonna have like more copy of the data that we have to maintain.
Yes. So I'm also not very sure. Tree based is like a concrete, but I don't know. Can I get it now? Order one. So this might require more work here.
So one question as well. So how are you showing the quad tree? Like, will you discuss that part? Right now,
sure. Yeah, if it is not clear, I'll explain it up here. So let's say that the login one I will explain, and then maybe in the next 10 minutes I'll explain the rest of the sections, and we will be open for question for next 10 minutes. So how we will go here is that whenever a person shares that lat long will go to the top of the tree, the quad tree. From that quad tree, it will search which of the children is more suitable to narrow down to the lat long. So for example, suppose this is the children that is more suitable, where more higher precision narrow lat long is available. Now from here again it will search which of these children has that thing. So for example, that lat long actually falls between.
Where is this quad tree? So is it like a quad tree representation or it's a database? Like, so I wanted to ask that, like, are you going to the DB to fetch this, or like how?
So I'll come to that. So first of all, this is an abstraction that we are using. So it will be a data structure that we are talking. Now we will see how we can model this data structure into data model and store it in the data store. So now in this abstraction, it will go here, it will reach, and then it will return this. Now if we go to the data model, we already have this data model for this cell. And how do we store it? As the actual storage will be keep this so these cells basically we will store it in row entry basically.
Sorry for interrupting. When you were describing the search, are you sure that each node, so whenever we move from the root, we will have multiple options to go down to the next level, right? We will not always have one option.
Correct.
So it's not really login, though.
No. So it will not do brute force search. It will know from.
So at root, yes. So at root, you will have a view of all the entire world, right? Now you are looking for a single point, let's say point D or something. I don't know, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Now, how will you? So is there only exactly one option at each step when you move down?
Yes. It will narrow down. It will know. For example, how I'll know is
so can you figure it out using the max min lat long or?
Yes. So something I will fit in here, like this is basically the left top, or for me this is the left top. This is left bottom. So some kind of
I think that never mind. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So we will have a paradigm, and we will.
But we'll probably have to keep some buffer, right? Some margin, because if the point that we're looking for lies in that, like at the corner of that square,
at the boundary,
then we also at the boundary, then we also want to consider like the neighboring squares, right?
Yeah. So I understand that is a different problem altogether. So boundary is a different problem. So maybe I'll come back here. So till now, so I'll just wrap up on the data store. So the data model is clear. First of all, the abstraction, the abstraction and the data model is clear here. And the data store is clear. Like the data store will be, just store, these cells will be row entry in the data store. So it could be, anything. And, for the search, we will go from the top, and, we will, kind of just get it in log and like any binary kind of search. So this is
so what is inside a row? Could you explain how so you are essentially saying you will store this quad tree in a database?
Yes. So yeah, so this will be like all these things we will store in some data store. It will be ID and then square bound and all all these attributes will be stored in the database, and it will be again kind of recursively searchable. Like there will be ID 1, 2, and 3, and 4, which will again map back to these IDs. So
each node is a record in your data store, right?
Correct.
So what are the IDs there? For example, what is ID 1, ID 2? So those are all columns inside a database. In your example, you have children. You have so yes. So in memory, it is easy to visualize because these will be pointers.
Yeah.
In a database, how would this look? So how will you assign?
Surely. So there are actually various paradigms. I'll keep the simplest one. Can I just store a JSON of this and just live with it and read all these attributes? Once I hit the ID, I'll get everything in one go in memory, and we will just compute. These are
how will you go to the next level? So how will you move from the root to the next level, for example?
Sure. So root will have some ID. Let's say, root is like, 001, whatever. Okay. I mean, one ID. And from there on, I load that specific row entry, and I will get, the 4 children that will be mentioned here. And now based on the lat long that we want to search, I'll be able to identify, hey, I have to go to left top or left bottom, right top, right bottom. And that ID I got, and that ID again, I will search. So this will be basically, a recursive, recursive call.
So you will search using the database.
Login calls to the DB.
Yeah, you will make login calls to the DB then, right?
No, I'm just being very generic, like just the data store here. So it could be anything like database. It
should be stored. Yeah, it should be stored somewhere, right? So is it the DB or is it in memory?
Yeah. So whether it is in DB or in memory, it does not matter as long as I have an abstraction to fetch this thing, right? I give an ID, I get the object. I give an ID, I get an object. So it does not even matter, kind of. So
but if you use equal solution, I'm sorry. Shall I go ahead?
So here actually I'm explaining the mathematical model. I haven't even landed into this thing. So I think the actual data. So let me now actually dive deep on that, because we will not be able to finish. So give me like kind of 5 minutes to explain rest of the pieces. I'll kind of go like speed. So now when we talk about these things, so what we are saying is we need couple of guarantees here. So the very first thing is of course we need high scalability. So what all things can we do here? I'll touch upon those things as well. That what we can do is, let's say that we are getting 1 million requests per second and we are also breaching that limit. So what we can do is we can deploy the same setup in different data centers and availability zone across the world, maybe 10-100 places based on what is the budget, and that same DNS will map to a different IP gateway, and we will be able to kind of get low latency and high scale, at least 10x scale we can just do out of the box here. Next thing is all the pieces we will build are stateless, like the web servers, proximity servers. So if a request comes, we will not store any session kind of information. It will do sync or async, whatever is required here. But if it loses, it does not matter. Like it's not a financial kind of information. Only for the write that we will have definitely have sync thing that unless the blob is written and kind of this will be like step one, the images are written, and then the corresponding contents are written in this DB, which is the restaurant information. So here we will have the restaurant information here, and then what we will do is so what we will do is once the restaurant information is written, we can also put that restaurant information in the cache. So what we will be getting here is that with cache, we know that this is like 1000:1 X read ratio. So for most practical purposes, we don't have to even hit this DB. It will be directly served from the cache. So now this is just, we are talking about the restaurant data model caching. Now, what about the rest of the things, like how do we do the search optimization? So for the search, what we can do is we can store this query effectively in this DB, and we can again replicate that in the cache. So this will be, query will be also in the DB and in the cache. And here what it will provide is like, what it will provide is, okay, let me just hide not required. So, so here, like any frequent access to a restaurant, it can be served really fast. Any access to query node, it can be served from here. And we will do, caching of query as well. Like, can I do, query cache? So restaurant will be cached here, and the quad tree node will be cached here, and request response will be also cached here. So we can build some sort of model where, if someone gives me, a lat of, really high precision, like, what I can do is I can just, degrade that to, 100 meter of accuracy, because anyways, the lowest granularity we are thinking is 1 kilometer here. We'll not go below that, whatever. We will have some certain heuristics. So, so that way we can have a lot of, cacheability here, because I'm not going to that precision. I mean, just to be future ready. For example, 10 years from now, we will be able to get maybe, 10 centimeter scale GPS. So we don't want that. We will just, get it of, 100 meter or 10 meter kind of accuracy. So, and we will, of course, split and join. And for further efficiency and concurrency, we can have some sort of event loop kind of thing. So whenever the IOs are happening, it will just wait. I mean, it will not hold the thread, but it will wait for the callback. It will get the response, and it will do processing, and finally it will return back to the caller. So here, I at least touched upon that we can store everything here in the data store, database. And just especially for the restaurants, we can store in ACID database, because we want to get all sorts of guarantee on the of the restaurant information. It should not be that name is kind of broken once in a while. But rest of the things, we have leeway that we may or may not choose a relational database, but it's because the size is so small, we can still live with relational database for simplicity. For the caching, we can use any key value store, probably a Redis, because this is like in memory, and it will have really low latency, high throughput kind of thing. Alternatively, we can choose DynamoDB or React based on certain further fine tuning. So I'll not go into that detail. And we will also identify a couple of things for high availability, that what are what are the single point of failure, basically fault tolerance, single point of failure. So here we will have everything horizontally scalable, and there will be kind of leader follower model. Here also we will have leader follower model, and at least there will be replicated data available via CDC, and here it will be done via some in-sync replica, whatever is the model there. And what could be the bottleneck? The bottleneck I'm seeing is the proximity service itself could become bottleneck, because here we can shard it pretty easily. Like I can have region-based sharding here for the data store, like though we will be using the same cache, can I just shard the Bangalore and in India context, like Delhi in a different Bangalore and Delhi in different shards, and probably I will not even deploy US together. US will be in a completely different deployment, and they will have different kind of shards as well. So that way we will be able to split the load of the DB, and proximity service here we will make sure that the multiple steps, they are happening in some sort of event loop, and we are allowing concurrent this thing. We will use like containers, we will use event loop and whatever best technologies are there, and we will also apply some sort of rate limiting so that some DDoS or someone does not kill our system. And certainly we will also authenticate, authorize. For example, Google Maps, whenever we are using, actually it is asking for the username password. Of course it is not free of cost, that I mean it is not free to use per se, so we can use those things and we can restrict. We'll have some monitoring, alerting, and in the cache design kind of these are some options. Like if we are using React or DynamoDB, we can directly get the durability out of the box. So we can just discuss with our architect panel that do you want MySQL or can I go with DynamoDB? I see one team is using DynamoDB, so we will just be able to merge these two in a single single kind of data store, and I can use DAX for sub-millisecond kind of query. So this will be like pre-built solution, and React would be kind of for durability. So some of these things could be of course competing. We'll have to do this kind of dive deep at that point of time. Yeah, so at high level, this is the solution, and reason is specific for heavy traffic. We could have a hot shard whenever there is a hot at this level any item is becoming hot, we can have further heuristic and we can keep breaking those. But the simple heuristic is we will only have up to 100 restaurants there, and we can have for caching we can have some sort of TTLs, and if you are and also what I see is that because the data is so small that we can also do some sort of local caching. Like I get a node and I know that it's not going to change very frequently. So I can have a local caching with maybe 1 day TTL, and that will be like in 10 nanosecond I will be able to serve. So that way what happens is, suppose a proximity service node is serving certain areas, probably 50% of it could be served locally and things like that, but we will not make it sticky, because that becomes kind of a scalability constraint, that I don't want a specific proximity service to handle only Bangalore and things like that, or Bay Area per se. And Boundary cell, this is kind of there are certain suggestions that I got, maybe we can touch upon that. So typically in the normal setup, boundary is tricky, because what happens is, for example, I'm there and I want to find my sibling, basically a cousin, long distance cousin, who has exactly the same birthday as mine. Now in typical tree setup, I may have to crawl 100 level up, and one of my cousin was born in whatever Europe or Africa, wherever, or Australia, and that has exactly the same birthday. So that would be very expensive. So the boundaries could become a little tricky. So one thing I've read or heard is probably we can connect the same level node, because especially this is like slow moving. So we, all the people that are on the same level node, for example, I am at the boundary of this, then instead of crawling up and getting the next node, I can have some sort of linked list, one more advanced structures, and whoever are touching at the same level, they will be connected with each other. But again, this will require additional work. And how do we handle concurrent read and write? So what I'm thinking is, I promise that I told that I have a way of eventual consistency, but here kind of, because the data requirement is small, we could eventually get high consistency as well. So but this again kind of becomes a competing concern. So what I can do is that I can just go ahead and keep updating the entries live. So what I think I don't have a very solid solution here. If I update the entries live, I think it might break the queries. It needs some work. I don't have any solution on this. And there is one more trade-off that that is like, how do we update the cache? Like there are some solution, write aside, write cache. So this I will not go into, and that's all I have for now. Yeah. Any other thing?
Yeah, we have 2 minutes left. Anyone has a questions?
Yeah, Shiva. So I want to talk about like how we are updating the cache thing, right? How to handle concurrent reads and writes.
Yeah.
So
sure.
What I was thinking of is how about we inform the customers that any update which you guys are doing will be reflected in the system after 24 hours. And at every 23rd hours, we read the data from database, create a chord tree and push the chord tree into cache. And in the cache, whenever we get the data, whenever we get a request, we query the cache, find out what is the specific node which we have to go, and then just query the database, a range-based search on the database, which will be a O1 operation, and we can just return the results. So that way we have to, every request we have to just search the chord tree and get the node, and then probably query the database and give the results.
So one potential approach, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so kind of sounds doable, but one catch here is, this is what I had tried a while back, but there were so many bombarded questions that I kind of reverted back. So here I'll ask you the question first. Like when you are saying that okay, every 24 hours, you will do a refresh. So when you are doing a refresh of the cache, then what will happen to the active query?
So again, here, if we are looking at the CAP theorem, we are not bothered about the consistency, right? We are bothered about the availability. So when we are refreshing the cache, and if we have like n number of systems, it will be refreshed in a chain based algorithm, and one by one it will refresh the cache. So whichever customer is hitting the system which has updated cache, they will get the result respectively. And in case if they have not got the updated result, maybe in a while they will get the result. So eventually we will have the consistency in place, but customer may have some lag, or they may not see the exact result at that moment.
Okay, let me ask a counter question. So now, eventual consistency in terms of, very simple, primitive data model, it works. Like, I have, maybe, 100 likes, and, actually it was supposed to be 101 likes, so I can just live with it. Now, what happens is, this is much more complicated data structure. We are, splitting the nodes. We are converging the nodes. So what if a person in the query lands to a node that behind the scenes someone deletes it as part of a refresh? What if I delete a node and that is being also served? So you are getting
yes.
that?
Yeah, so that's what, right? I mean, we will take a snapshot of the database. Say we are doing a refresh every 24 hours, right? So on the 23rd hour, we will take a snapshot of the database, which will have all the updates, and we will build a chord tree and then start pushing the chord tree into each of the cache. Now, in case a customer just queries at that moment and the cache is not updated, maybe they will get that result. But maybe after a while, when they refresh it, they will have the updated result. So eventual consistency will be there, that at that moment, we won't have the consistency exactly at the moment, but after a while, we will have the consistency. And because we are taking a snapshot of the database and then building a chord tree and pushing it, so after a while, all the customer will have the same level of consistency.
Also, with database.
Yeah, we have to update the database, right? Sorry.
Yeah, so database will keep on updating, right? The database updates will be pushed.
So yeah. When I say database, right, the entire quad tree is stored inside the database. So when a new restaurant is added, you have to do the splitting and uniting and updating the accounts, walk up the parent tree, all of that stuff inside the database. So,
my question is, do we really need quad tree within the database? I mean,
there should be some place. Yeah, exactly. So there should be some place where there should be some some place where all the data needs to be stored. So maybe they'll just store the restaurant data inside the database. And the catch then is how will you quickly construct the quad tree, because construction of the quad tree is kind of complicated, I would think. So you have to do the entire scan of the database, compute all that stuff. And I don't know how that will be sharded. All of that stuff is kind of tricky. I don't know.
So, like the creation of quad tree would be one-time activity every specific number of hours. So like in our example, on the every 23rd hour, we'll take the entire snapshot of database and start constructing the quad tree, right? In case if it takes like, I'm just assuming, like in case if it even takes like 10-15 minutes to create the quad tree. After that, once the quad tree is created, we will start pushing this change. Now we will replace all the cache with this newly created quad tree. So all the cache will have this latest quad tree there, and then probably whenever the customer queries it, they will just get the data like what is present in the database. So database will be the source of truth.
I think if you have 24-hour leeway, then it's fine. But if we want it faster, then
even otherwise, your startup time becomes very high. Sorry.
No, I'll say this is not solved yet because even after 23 hours, like it will take 15 minutes to update the cache, right? So when we are saying we will update the cache in 15 minutes, now it is again like I said, like this is not a very primitive entries that we are making here. This is more complex. Like what could happen is that when I'm updating the cache, there could be broken links, right? For example, I just put a child first, and then there is no parent, and because this snapshot to cache uploader basically snapshot. Snapshot.
Yeah. The point here is that
will not have the context of what is right and wrong. It could very well randomly write the children and then write parent, and there will be mislinks, and during those updates it could be we are creating orphans, and then we are killing a child, and then we are recreating it. It's like we are recreating the world, and while people are still living there.
So I think sounds like we're gonna have the current cache, but we're not gonna update the current cache. We're gonna build like a new cache altogether.
So I think at least the way I see it, the real source of the whole problem is that we are trying to maintain a concept like a quad tree in a persistent store, which is not natural, because quad tree is naturally done using pointers in memory inside the same machine. But we are trying to transfer those ideas and use that inside a persistent store, which is not meant to maintain pointers to other rows inside the database. So I think that is probably the problem that I see. One way to solve the problem is to use, I don't know if it was discussed before, but there is geohashes. So geohash gives you literally string. So the more characters you add to the string, the deeper you go inside the quad tree. So that makes it it is able to convert a single lat long into a string of geohashes, geohash or characters. Now you can use that to maybe index your data.
Yeah, so I think this might be useful for searches. I kind of agree. This is what we had it in Aerospike a while back. I had just visited the code. So, you add more and more characters to it, and it will add to the precision. But this does not solve the core problem. And there are two things. Is quad tree the concern where it fits in memory well, but not on data source. So what I will say is this is this is not a very strong argument, because anything that is in memory should be serializable, isn't it like that?
No, but you are not able to, right? You had all these problems when you were trying to serialize it because you had broken links.
No,
right? So if it was
broken link is because of the updates that we are doing, right? So because of the updates we are getting broken link. Broken link is not the core of the thing. That is because we are updating. If we don't update, or if we update it in the right way, then this does not have any issue. Like anything in the memory should be serializable, right?
So if you had to do it in memory, you have to lock the entire tree, make updates, and then release the lock. So that is another potential problem with quad trees if you want to make updates. So yeah. So I think I would. So what was it that you were trying to say about geohashes?
I understand. I think this might work. I'm not telling this might work actually. So my point is this is not the logic behind that. Quad tree is a thing of concern that is in memory. So my point there is anything that is in memory should be serializable, because in fact anything relational we talk about, that is even more complex, and we are able to serialize and put it to disk pretty easily. So the above logic.
The synchronization becomes a problem, right? In memory, you can easily lock the entire tree if you want, make changes, and then serialize the access or mutates to it using locks. In database, you have to replicate the entire thing. Again, then what is the point of then there will be every single operation will be blocked with that thing. So it still seems extremely, inconvenient to deal with, right?
This doesn't mean that we will revert everything. Yeah, please.
Yeah, what I'm saying is also we have to consider the number of writes are very, very less. It's like it's like only 0.1 transaction per second, right? So the situation which we are considering that during the update we will break, I guess, like if we consider the entire number of reads which we are doing, it will be quite like very less, which where we will get the error results or something like that.
But you will still get error results if you read while an update is going on, right?
Yeah, that is correct.
Yeah. So and the reads are high, so you will get high number of errors, right?
In case if that specific thing is getting updated, but generally here when we are designing Yelp like of concept, the restaurants and all is not getting changed. The restaurant coordinates or the details of the restaurant is not getting changed so often, right?
Sure, but then if you are talking about reliability as one of your core reliability as one of your core requirements, then you are not being reliable, right? I think it will work. I'm not saying it will not work, just that it's not going to work reliably.
So one techie way is on the same node. What I was thinking is we can have the deletes on the separate cache or separate database, because deletions are very less, right? So whenever we filter the search, we can use the deletion of the restaurant list and filter out from the search itself. So we will not give those the restaurant to the end user or the clients. So in that way, it will allow us to not to show the deleted restaurant to the end user.
I think it's also about creation, not just about deletion. Like even on creation, the same issue will happen, right?
So I don't see any difference in like imagining the quad tree in memory versus like the row structure that has been suggested here. I mean, even the row structure can live in memory. Like if you're thinking of pointers and all that stuff, the IDs that are there in the node is essentially that IDs that are there in the rows are essentially pointers. Now, if you were to update the complete tree, for example, you can create a complete parallel tree, and the only thing that you're tracking is the ID of the root. You can just atomically swap that, right? And this can be done at a more granular level as well. Like a subtree can be created, like for a 100 kilometer by 100 kilometer, and then atomically swapped, right? As just the ID of it. So just as you would do in memory, like a pointer kind of data structure, you can still do that in the row thing. And there is no restriction that this tabular representation has to be on the disk, right? It can be in memory as well.
So you are saying Okay.
So what I'm seeing here is, at least in this proposal, whether right or wrong is different. Let's say that we will do 100 node update at a time. So we will create that subtree, and that subtree, whenever we are updating, let's say that this is always correct, business consistent. So this is this is always business consistent, that we will take a part of it and then maybe do a atomic write. Basically it will be some sort of transaction, then we'll have to think, right, stop the reads there and then write it and then allow reads there, something like that, right?
Not really. I mean, we don't have to stop the reads. Like it's just a pointer update, right? At that point.
But those pointers has to be because if we are doing continuous updates, then it will be broken. So anyway, I had this thing in mind that maybe we can go via this approach. Can we do it on a new cache and and flip it? So this who had suggested this? Actually, I am kind of more biased towards it. This is very simple solution that looks.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is like a general solution. Like you have like a data that is being actively read, and then in the background you are creating the new version of the data, and then like once the new version of data is ready, then you can just like swap in, swap out, like swap the new data. And then replace the old data. Yeah, flip. Yeah,
something like DNS IP only will not replace the data because it will not work. So but I had actually suggested this last time in autocomplete search, where I had given that the writes will go to the passive data store and the reads will happen from the active. And because this was kind of a non-conventional solution, there were so many questions asked that actually I reverted it.
I can see that happening.
So people were selling active passive is a model that we use on the load balancer. What exactly are you trying to do here? Can you do with a simpler model? And that explaining went on and on. And I actually made a new version where I will write everything actively, and whatever happens, I'm just fine with this. So
cool. Yeah. Maybe in that case, like, you should not call it active passive. You should call it like active or like a primary replica, right? Then it makes sense. And you say like, we will update one node at a time, right?
So primary is more for both are serving together. Again, maybe people will correlate with the load balancer. I have a load balancer, primary. Both are serving the traffic. What is here with primary? Are we serving read and write from both? So they will try to correlate from there, and they will ask some questions that would look non-conventional here.
Okay. By the way, we are at 12:15. Sorry,
okay.
Actually, my time is 12:15 right now. And someone asking if you can share the notes, please, maybe in the Discord channel. I think that will be really helpful for everyone.
Sure. I'll do that. I think I'll have to find the right way to share. So two things I'm taking up here. One thing is that whatever we are building, is it like too complicated? Are we trying to rediscover acid here? Because that is what I'm seeing. I will take a snapshot and do something. I think this will be very complex when we are saying these things. I know I can just make a snapshot here. What about this? This is not a snapshot, so I will have to make my Redis as a snapshot ready. So that will be like non-feasible. I think this sounds more feasible because this is a practical thing. This is kind of a more non-conventional. So this looks like feasible to me. And if I go this here, actually there will be locks. So there could be efficiency issues I'm seeing here. Actually the issue could be that some of the requests we will have to fail. Can we identify that request we will have to fail? And if we are able to retry, I think this could also work. Like I'm updating something and I'm able to retry some of the requests, probably it will work. But if it is putting some locks, then probably not a good thing. And if we are again thinking that okay, we will have 2 versions of it, something that is supported by S8, then it will be an overkill. So anyways, so I think things are moving from very simple thing to really, really complicated here, and we are left with too many options. There is no one solution. So this is very interesting. Yeah. So that's all I have. Yeah. Thanks. Okay. Thanks everyone.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Siva, for presenting. I find it very, very useful and helpful.
Yeah. So do we want to do it tomorrow as well? Just I'm checking, or other day as well. So this was my question. Do we want to do only weekly, or other days of the week also we can gather and do this? Because I have another server where we do, and we are open for multiple days. So what is the call out, like general kind of thought I'm just taking in here?
Yeah, I'm open for more frequency, but maybe like we can post this in the Discord channel, like what people think. I'm sure like I think many people will be interested to see more about this.
Okay, so just asking quickly, what about tomorrow? I know it's 31st, but it's COVID. Are we going outside?
Tomorrow same time.
Yeah, and if it is an overkill, maybe Monday your same time, so that Tuesday I can present something interesting, if that works. I won't be overkilling tomorrow, but let's do it on Monday. Yeah.
I think just post it in the Discord channel and then see like how many people will be interested. I definitely will be interested as well.
Sure. So just a general consensus, like tomorrow would be overkill. What do people think? I'm just curious. Yes and no. Like
I am open for maybe like today's Thursday, right?
Tomorrow is Friday, so 31st it will be, I think, for you people, right? So anyway, let's make it on Monday. World is not ending yet, so hopefully. So yeah. So thanks everyone. See ya. Happy New Year in advance to everyone, and let's hope the new year brings some more hope and all, and just be safe and